Tonight on the Rundown, we're diving straight into the big shift happening right under our noses. AI that doesn't just answer questions, but acts. Agentic AI is stepping out of the passenger seat and grabbing the wheel, making decisions, taking initiative, and reshaping everything from business to government to creativity itself. It's a moment filled with promise, risk, and a whole lot of questions about what we want technology to do and what we still want to reserve for humans. Let's get into it. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you here back on the Rundown. My name is David. I'm happy to see all of you. I'm especially happy to see some of these friendly faces like Tamra. Pika, how are you, Tamra?
I am good. How are you? I'm kind of excited about this conversation today.
I'm kind of excited also because I'm really bullish on AI and I'm really worried about agentic AI. So
yeah, I did a lot of thinking about it this week in a lot of different ways, and I was like, I'm not sure how I feel, so I'm really excited to see what our group
we'll have to dive into that.
Says
Absolutely.
together. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Mr. Tony Mobley, Father Tony Mobley, Reverend. What is? No, you're not a father. I mean, you are a father.
I
Can be.
Actually, the church uses reverend, but I don't. I say minister.
Minister Mobley, Eminem. How you doing?
I'm good. I just want to say that I enjoyed the conversation that you had on office hours on Tuesday night. It was very interesting to see you on the other side where you were the one who was responding to most of the questions that were asked.
Well, thank you. And thank you for watching. It's very easy. Put Bill and I in a room together and we could kind of go forever. He leads such a fantastic conversation and I don't know how to shut up. So we're a dynamic duo to the two of us. But thank you for watching. I really appreciate that. It means a lot, Tony. It really does. Hello, Miss Lois.
Hello.
How are
I'm
you?
glad that someone's excited about the topic tonight. I'm actually a little scared.
Really?
Yeah,
How-
I read all the stuff that you gave us for,
Yeah.
preparing for tonight and read about all the things that are going to be taken over.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, where are the people?
Yeah.
Happening to the people?
You know, I still miss driving a stick shift. And I feel like I feel like the automation, I don't know if that's a word, making
Automation.
automation. Thank you. I'm not sure why I lost that. The automation, even of something as simple as the car, changed our world. And I miss having some of that control. So we'll see where this leads us. Absolutely. Good to see you here. Hello, Mr. Troutman. How are you?
I'm here and I'm in my plaid because we had our first snow. So there you
You had
go.
your first
All the
what?
short sleeve shirts go in the closet. Snow.
I'm sorry. What is that? Is that the white stuff?
That's it comes down really slowly, but it lands and then it sticks around and stays around for months. And then you shovel some of it if you need to get out of your driveway. So yeah.
The first snow. That actually sounds lovely. I was up in
It usually is gorgeous, yes.
yeah. I was up in New England 2 weekends ago, just for a night, and but I had a couple of hours Sunday afternoon, so we went out to the pumpkin patch. We went apple picking. We saw all the leaves, and it was chilly, and it was so nice to not be in
Invigorating,
Florida for 4 hours, and
Just
then
a
it was
day or two.
lovely to
It's
come.
like having
back
the
to
grandchildren, then you can send them home again. So you can go to these places, come back home again, and you've had the experience. Thank you very much. I'll go home now.
That's exactly right. As soon as it got below 50, I was like, all right, time to go home. Time to go home. Yeah. Sky, how are you, sir?
I'm unmuted. I'm well, and I'm in wearing the lovely scarf that my wife made me. And again,
Are you wearing that because you need it because it's snowing where you are too?
It is not.
No.
I was to give you a definition of what snow is, Dave, in Florida. Think of a really, really, really dry margarita. Really dry.
That's snow.
That's snow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's without, blended without the liquid. So that's snow. You're welcome.
That's a hard
But no,
analogy
it's not
for me because
but
I don't drink.
It thundered. It thundered here. It doesn't thunder in the Pacific Northwest. Last
Really?
night we had thunder. We had mini booms that were, you count how many seconds, you see the lightning and then you
Yeah.
count 1, 2, and that was like a 5 mile away. And my wife, who was singing in a choir in a building, she said they heard it inside the building.
Yeah.
Like, woof.
We have
Boom.
we go in Florida, in South Florida,
Mm,
it's from April through the end of October, every day. There's a thunderstorm at about 3 o'clock every single day. It lasts about 20 minutes and that's over, but every single day. And yeah, you get the thunder and the lightning is kind of amazing. Now, I shouldn't say anything because of course it'll storm tomorrow, but now we've had it beautiful, but not nearly as beautiful as this fine group of people here. Yeah, Lois, what's up?
So April through October, we have no rain at all.
Yeah,
Zero.
I know.
But we've had our first storm of the season here now, and hopefully we'll get a few more. There's one scheduled for next week.
Nice. Vic is saying that the changing seasons is visually stunning, but dealing with the physical realities not so much. Yeah, it's exactly right. Right. Like I'm done shoveling snow. Just don't need to do that anymore.
My friend that moved from Michigan to Seattle, I said, why did you do that? There's nothing but rain up here. He says, yes, but you don't have to shovel rain.
Right.
That's right.
Exactly.
There you go. From Michigan.
All right. Let's get into it. What do you say? We've got some news. AI talent is now worth more than legacy industries. So this is kind of an amazing story. This is not a new story, really, because it happened over the summer, or a lot of it happened over the summer. But Meta is dropping between $100 million to $1.5 billion on individual AI researchers, while companies like Ford can't even keep up. And it's not even because of the money, it's because of this decade-long structural tech gap. So what we're ending up with is people with just unbelievable amounts of money. And we
These are
could
the
get
big league
into
players,
the...
yeah.
I'm sorry?
These are the big league players. This is the baseball players who get 150 million. Well, now we do it for programmers and researchers.
But that's what's interesting is that it's not the big league players. It's these very few AI researchers who you and I have never heard of, who simply can do what other people can't. And not only is the amount of money that they're getting just mind-boggling, but the amount of power that they have or that they can wield because of their unique skills is really pretty astounding, I think.
Well, I think that the sports analogy is not far off because, again, these are financiers that are betting on a player. And consequently, yes, the article that you gave us, you want to talk about the article?
Sure. Go for it.
Okay. Well, it was one of the people that is going to be receiving, he's 24. They're talking about, last week he was eating ramen. Now he's, over the next 4 years, going to be worth $250 million. And consequently, I thought about that, and he's not unlike a sports player because the finance people behind that are expecting a huge return. And I think this is where we are on the pivotal trail to the Yukon. And that's where, somebody's going to be making a lot of money, and it might be this person, but the company that's, behind it is expecting to gain all of the market share now.
Can't wait to see the draft and the trading of players and the contract negotiations and all that.
I'm going to wear his number on my shirt, on my jersey.
Yeah, we'll put numbers on our shirts. That's what'll happen.
I mean, what
one of the things that can be going on, and I'm not sure it is, but it seems likely, is that if this person can do something that is so unique, well, he might go out and start his own business, and that would be competition. So if you can buy the potential competition when they haven't started doing that yet, you can make your company much more profitable.
And we see this in every single business, and we saw it during the .com. We see it at any major. We saw when Netflix came in, all of those contracts were on paper much higher than any of the broadcast networks. So this is like a traditional kind of path to things. You identify talent, you say they're going to make me potential money. I want to buy them before the other guy does. And that's really kind of what's happening. I think the difference is when we're looking at these giant salaries is just the difference between that salary and the bottom workers in their same company. Right. So that's what's really been different. Not the idea that we would pay for talent. We've been paying for talent for a really long time. It's that it used to be 30% difference between the top of the company and the bottom, and we're talking 6, 7, 800,000, 100% difference between what your CEOs and your top talent is making and the people who are working to keep your company running. So that's the difference.
Is it? I think it's easy to make the. I think it's really easy to make the argument that is not right, that's unfair. I'm not arguing against that, but let me just play devil's advocate for the moment. If these people really do have skills that others don't, and if they really are going to be creating and refining and designing the future of commerce and business and connection and communication and so on and so forth, does that justify these salaries? I mean, I guess what I'm asking is there a justification for a salary like this?
I think it justifies having a higher salary. People who have specialized knowledge deserve higher salaries. CEOs deserve higher salaries. They are doing work that the average bear can't do. And they're doing it at, like, the second you become a CEO, it's really the downfall of when you're going to be ousted into your next job because we're onto some board. So that's the reality of it. So do I think they deserve more? Absolutely, they deserve more. But the problem that we have happening in the world of work right now is we have in order to pay for that, every single quarter, we dump 14,000 people. We dump a bunch we say, oh, look, we didn't make our money. And so that's becoming really a tenuous way for the American worker or the global worker to have consistency, there's no there's no loyalty. And the truth is there's no loyalty to those people either. The second that they're in, the clock starts ticking and they're, like Dave said, and they're on their way out. So I do believe that this guy is a specialist researcher. He has specialized talent, even though he's 24. He worked for it. He has it. He has the potential of making them a lot of money. He deserves a higher salary. Does he deserve a higher salary that is vastly different, making it so that there's less jobs? That's what I don't agree with.
Well, Meryl Streep is the better actress, so she gets paid the big dollar. It's just, you have the talent and you buy the talent. That's what it is.
And Dave, I struggle with the exorbitant salaries, but again, we live in a barter trading commerce of a society. The utopian thing is, everything should be fair and we should all get along. But that's how long we've been around, humans. It's been a struggle for a while now, and we're still trying to figure that one out.
Can I just, I want to just bring us back though to what I think is maybe even a more challenging piece of this, which is not the exorbitant money, but the exorbitant power and influence that these folks are going to have.
And that's why a company is trying to get the front of the market.
Right.
Because
aren't you projecting things on these guys that aren't really their responsibility? Like, they're going to create stuff that is going to change banking, but they're not going to change banking directly. They're going to change trading stock. They're going to change how we calculate, driverless trucks. That's going to be a machine that does that stuff and changes our world. So the people who created these computers that you and I are using today didn't intend to change all the things at once. They just put it out there, and then we found ways to use the tools. So they're getting paid to be able to make the best tool and put it in front of a market and let everybody buy it. But if it's not very good, it's the proof is in the pudding. If the guy can't score goals, he's not with the team very long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Lois, go ahead.
So I wanted to touch on something that was in there, which said that this company is, the salary is like 35 times more than this other company. I think it was the Ford Motor Company, and they were saying that it can't do what this other company is doing because it doesn't have the resources, the farm, all the technology and things, and the people to do it. It sounds like that's the difference between a renter and an owner. Ford has to rent out all of this digital stuff, this AI stuff, whereas the other company is the landlord and they have the stuff.
Well, I mean, that raises a whole other issue, which is fascinating because I believe this just came up with Microsoft, actually, that they can't even, there's an energy crisis in the tech world right now. Microsoft, I believe it's Microsoft, they can't even create enough energy. The grid, our current power grid, cannot provide the energy that they need to do all this stuff, to do all this AI. And so they are now investing in nuclear energy and creating off-grid power sources. So yes, I mean, not having the resources, I think, is a big piece of it. It's also how we choose to spend the resources that we do have. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Well, I think of this as kind of like in all of human history, we've had these waves of wash up on the shore and erode the land and then pull away again. And we have these phases. And this is an acceleration phase. And then it's going to retreat a little bit. And then we're going to find a middle ground where we find a good use for some of it, but not all of it. It changes some things, but not all. And then my child will get the benefit of other things that I don't get because it didn't change fast enough for me. So I don't think it's the end of the world or a beginning of a new world. It's just a transition we're going through. I think Sky even put that in there, that we're at an inflection point where investing in this stuff has taken over investing in agriculture or investing in traditional manufacturing. And if AI takes away the need to use an automobile, well, we may in fact change the climate as well. And
hey, Dave,
define
inflection point for me. Because I've heard that
Me?
recently,
Yeah,
and I
it's a
believe
hinge point. It's
Yeah.
where something changes and it never goes back. So it's an inflection.
So it's
Once
a
We have
permanent
reflexes. Yeah, it's a permanent change.
and another speaker I heard today referred to it as a hockey
A hockey
curve.
a hockey stick,
stick.
Curve. Yeah, that's we go back to
Metaphor.
Al Gore and his hockey stick. Yeah. Mhm.
Dave is
These
right,
things
though.
accelerate.
Yeah, we're also in a research and development phase right now. And in that phase, we only have the tip of the iceberg about what this is really going to make money. So if you think back to the .com, people were making money for almost doing nothing just because of the idea was there. And at some point, it levels out where you're like, actually, these 150,000 ideas are going to make no money whatsoever. So we're going to pull back. And that's kind of what's going to happen here, too. Right now, they're investing in the possibility, and at some point the possibility is going to become a reality, and they will have better data, and that data is going to drive these decisions.
There's a lot of talk about is this a boom? Is this a bubble? Will this
bubble?
AI bubble burst at some point?
I believe it will. I've got my bet on that. It does.
I do too.
So even if it is a bubble, what's happening right now is the resources that are being using are extraordinary. I mean, this is so much more than having a factory make a car. I mean, that impacts one neighborhood.
That's right.
But the stuff that has to happen in order for AI to be functional is impacting all sorts of things, and people don't recognize it. And it's sort of like at the individual level, it's so easy just to go and, pop in a question or design a little program or something and use that AI. Hey, it's free right now. Well, actually, it's free to use, but it's not free for the world.
That's a really good point. And by the way, Vic is also, he just shared something really beautiful. And we're thinking about, the amount of money that the individual gets, but the return on investment is really what this is about, right? And he mentions Legend cost $60 million, but they brought in, what was it, $200 million over at T-Mobile in 1 year because of that relationship. So,
I'm going to add one thing on the footnote here, and that is that a lot of what's being invested in this is circular. So NVIDIA buys into OpenAI, and OpenAI buys their chips, and somebody in the third party is financing this. And a couple of the venture capital people have been concerned about this because that's what was going on with the .com era, is companies were presenting themselves as successful, they had no cash flow, and then somebody bought them. And they paid over much on it, and then that thing fell apart. And they kind of went, "You told me this would be working," and they go, "Well, that's your problem now." So that's what the bubble is going to be. Is China just stopped buying NVIDIA? They said, "We're not going to get any more chips. We're going to make our own." And NVIDIA had a huge investment in their growth of AI and research, and so that could be a tipping point where NVIDIA can't make cash, and nobody else can make cash, and NVIDIA has to withdraw their investments, et cetera, and it just piles up after that.
Yeah. I always worry about...
You heard it here first.
I always worry about this show becoming the AI show, and that's not what I want it to be, but it's very hard to not have so much to talk about around this. And so...
it's news.
It is news. It is news, absolutely.
It's changing the world, perhaps, and we should talk about it, yeah.
Right. So Google has pulled Gemma from AI Studio. So for those of you who don't know, actually let me pull it up here because it's kind of a hidden, amazing little thing. So AI Studio for Google is a place where you can build apps. You can, engage with lots of different features. I usually start on the build page, but you can chat here. You can build. You can do video creation here. You can do Nano Banana, art image generation. It's all here, and it's all free. It's kind of amazing. One of the tools that they had up here was a tool called Gemma, and Senator Marsha Blackburn accused it of generating completely fake, fabricated sexual misconduct story about her. Now, what Senator Blackburn did not say is that this was the AI hallucinating. She said this was the AI actually generating this, fabricating this completely with perhaps some intent. This was defamation, she said in her suit. And so Google pulled an entire AI tool because of this. So the question I wanted to bring to you all is, and by the way, this is an article from TechCrunch. I should always cite my sources. Can AI defame someone?
Absolutely.
It can?
Absolutely. Yes.
It has. So you're saying that AI can have intent?
You
AI
don't
can
have to have
have-
intent to defame someone.
Right.
AI can have intent because of who provides the data that it uses. So let's just say we create a model and we add those things that are our personal biases. We add those things into the AI. Now, the AI's job is to take the information that we have put into it and then make assessments and produce documentation to answer particular responses, right? Based on the prompts that we put in. Because it has the ability to generate from the information that it has been given, it can do defamation on particular issues. Why is it able to do that? Because the persons who originally put in the data had biases. And that's the way in which, and the old saying of garbage in, garbage out, that is a part of the place where we are when it comes to AI. So that's an issue.
This is the letter that Marsha Blackburn sent to Sundar Pichai at Google. She says, I've since learned of another example where Gemma fabricated serious criminal allegations about me. When prompted with, has Marsha Blackburn been accused of rape, Gemma produced the following entirely false response. This is the response. During her 1987 campaign for the Tennessee State Senate, Marsha Blackburn was accused of having a sexual relationship with a state trooper, and the trooper alleged that she pressured him to obtain prescription drugs for her and that the relationship involved non-consensual acts. Gemma went on, she then continues in her letter, to generate fake links to fabricated news articles to support the story. She says none of this is true, not even the campaign year, which was actually 1998, and the links lead to error pages and unrelated news articles. When I have one of the apps I spoke about on Tuesday's show was this kids news app, and one of the things that I did to make sure that the data that was coming into that was accurate was I made it check every link. So wherever it got the information from, I needed to know what that specific link was so I could click on it and check it. And when you see links to broken sites or 404 pages or whatever, that's a sign right there that there's a garbage response. She says this is not a harmless
that's a challenge,
hallucination.
isn't it?
Right.
It's an act of defamation produced and distributed by a Google-owned AI model.
I think this is a really important conversation, though, because there are more and more people, when I just talk to casual people, who are using ChatGPT as Google, as what they think of as old Google, which is like I ask it a question and it's going to give me 100% the answer, as though it's culling from its memory. Like, I think people don't understand how things are trained and how it's used. So they kind of have a sense, there's just a general sense that we've taken all this stuff and we've trained these models. And so all the model has to do is kind of go back through its little memory bank and pull up those facts. And that's actually not how the actual model works. It trains on the data and then it thinks through and analyzes the question and answers it, which is why there's hallucinations. So if we don't have these conversations, then people are going to continue to look at everything that comes back to them from their AI as though it were facts, and we're becoming less and less able to get to the actual sources.
And I
Tamara,
think
could you
because
explain the difference between what you just you said, what people think, and then what it really is? And I didn't understand the
Yeah.
what
So
really is.
so if you think about how we use Google, we go and we do a search in Google, and Google searches through all of the links that it has available to it. And then it produces a bunch of links. And then you, as the human, click through the links and go, that source isn't a great source. This source isn't a great source. This source isn't a great source. What generative AI does is it is trained on a bunch of data, but it's not like that data becomes a library that it pulls from. It looks at the data, reads the data, and then does the analysis that you as the human used to do when you looked through the links. So sometimes it's doing thinking through things with, and it will direct you to a link. That's the one it consulted so that it could think through things, and then it provides an answer. Just like a human who thinks through things, and sometimes their analysis is not correct or it's based in things that don't make sense. What's happening with the AI is that it's thinking through things, and if it doesn't quite have an answer, it's still going to answer confidently, utilizing some amount of thought process based on what it has been trained with. But it is not necessarily going in and grabbing the facts out of the library and regurgitating those facts, because the facts are long gone. Those are not things that are just kind of instantly retrievable. It's utilizing that information in its thought process. I don't know if that makes it any more.
I want to throw.
I'm gonna
let me just,
try.
Sky, 1 second, if it's okay.
Go.
I just want to bring in a comment and then either respond to this or please continue with what you want to say. But I think this is a really interesting thought. So Richie says the model is not sentient. If a toaster made a mistake, no matter how socially volatile or damaging, we would not hold the toaster accountable. It's a manufacturer responsibility. Is this just a toaster? Is this just a really expensive toaster?
Yes,
But
it's a
Sky,
yes,
go ahead.
and
Sky, go ahead.
Well, what comes to mind is in this room, we recognize the name Walter Cronkite. We grew up with a journalist that, as Tamara pointed out, somebody culled the information, checked the information, but there were only 3 major, television news broadcasts a day on 3 different channels, and that was how we got our information. So but it was not a profit center. So consequently, the network was throwing money at generating this news, but it wasn't entertainment, it was information. So consequently, I think we're still used to that metaphor, but the next generation won't. And so I think we're still dragging forward in, well, if it shows up in print, it must be true. However, if it bleeds, it leads was way back in the Randolph Hearst era, to the point of, if we can create a war in, the Spanish-American War, well, we can sell more newspapers. So I think this opportunity is also being abused for, keeping our attention, and somehow we can sell ads.
So I used to make websites and write the HTML code and whatever. And the way Google does searches is every time there's a website, a web page, whatever, it contains those keywords that are relevant to that particular site or page. And so those keywords are stuck in Google's database. Not the whole page, just the keywords. And for things that don't have keywords, sometimes it'll make up the keywords. What is the most common thing it's talking about in this website and that sort of thing. So it is actually looking at the things that match your question. And it's not a matter of searching the links and going and looking at each one as it's being called. No, it has a database of keywords. And so the the responses to that. Now, it does also in Google, you can pay to get at the top. But that having a database of keywords is how I thought the AI was working also. Hammer, you're saying that's not true?
Not
That's not
the
true.
That is not true, not the way that I understand it. It's reading through the data and then utilizing the training that it has to make sense of the data and bring that information to you. I think the reason why it's really important to have these conversations aloud and a lot is so that we realize what it is exactly our personal responsibility when we receive new information.
The AI doesn't actually know anything. It
Right.
constructs the answer, and it reaches in all directions to get stuff, and then it assembles it in a reasonably understandable way, and then it hopes to heck that it's correct. So
and then it presents it with confidence and
Confidence and
confidence,
vigor.
even though it made
it's
it up.
giving stimulation to you that this is the right answer, but you have to check.
So,
And
So-
the AI, I wanted to point out there was a man in 1820 who was declared to be the last man who knew everything. And we don't keep that in our head anymore. It's all out there. So we've gotten very used to relying on other things for our information.
Yeah.
Walter Cronkite is one era. Libraries are still useful. Real libraries with books in them are still very useful. And we get our information from neighbors and friends and people we interact with at work. But it now is fragmented and atomized to the point where you can take all those atoms and shape them into any form you like, including fraudulent stuff and her problem.
so real quick,
problem,
before
Senator.
Lois, before I come back to you, I just want to throw this out. So, Blackburn's suggestion then, or the way that she seeks to solve this issue, she says, is my response remains the same: shut it down until you can control it. The American public deserves AI systems that are accurate, fair, and transparent. Do you agree? Shut it down until you can control it?
No.
I don't
Educate
know.
Sure. If a
the
car is
people-
killing people, you got to take it off the road.
Right.
Lois, go ahead.
Educating people on how to interact with AI, how to ask questions that don't allow it to go and make things up. Confirming, like David said, confirming your resources are true, exist, and accessible. The links that it's giving you are right. There are ways to interact with AI that are more secure than other ways.
And
There's a problem
It
consequently,
can
with that.
still hallucinate
but
either
the-
way.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a deeper problem with that, and that is that we are not looking at those of us that are here, and those who might be watching this conversation are fully aware of double dipping in terms of finding the actual points that need to be referenced. But the average person is not going to do that. They are just going to take it at face value, and they're going to look at whatever it tells them as a matter of fact. And some of them are not even aware of the fact that it's hallucinating. And so that's a deeper problem. And I think that part of what we have to reckon with is that the average consumer or the average person is not going to take those necessary second steps that are needed in order for us. So to a certain extent, what the senator was recommending is probably for the best. Personally, I would not like for it to go that way, but because of the way in which regular people seem to operate, we know that even with the media, if a certain person says a certain thing, even though we might know that it is an absolute lie, there are people who are going to believe it as the truth. And we also know that people can say a lie enough times that there are people who are going to believe it.
and that's where Dave, you put that letter up there, and I searched who the woman is, and I'm thinking, well, control by whom? That makes it anxious. To Tony's point, people that are now in control of things about our lives are not showing good faith for their society. Statistically, consequently, if that is the fact, now I'm going to go really out on a limb here. Don't we have an issue with gun control? And consequently, if we're going to be controlling anything, shouldn't we talk about things that are actually killing people?
Now you're getting into dangerous territory, because there's an
I
amendment.
certainly am. I
There's an
recognize
amendment
that.
on that one, right?
And-
yeah, Lois, go ahead.
Okay.
Well,
So one of the, I did it again, didn't I? I got myself on the list before I was ready to speak. The actual person that was identified in that, you could have anyone say, did this person do horrible things? Tell me all the dirt. I want to, make it bad for them. You could put any name in there you wanted to. And if you ask the question properly, I'm sure it would be very happy to give you what you wanted it to say. So AI is a tool. And if people want to use it to bludgeon other people, they can probably find something.
The promise of Google was that we were going to have access to everything, and that everybody would be sitting in their houses, and if they had a question, they could just go, and it would give you access to all of the things in all the lands. And what we found very quickly was that that was not a problem we wanted to solve, in the fact that if I looked something up, I had a little bit of a bubble that only brought me back things that I wanted to see. And Dave could look it up and look up the exact same topic, and he would get a very, very different set of responses. And we know that's been happening. We know that's a problem, but that's not a problem we want to solve, because that same algorithm is the thing that gives us advertising that is directed towards us, and that allows us to market things, that does send me all of the ads that actually I prefer having ads that I want to see versus other ads. And that is causing just in regular Google, I don't get the answers back that are accurate answers. I get answers back that are exactly what I want to see. And we're seeing the same thing in generative AI. It is a reflection of what I wanted to say. If I want a different when I ask ChatGPT a question, it gives me an answer. And if I want a different answer, I have to actually ask the question. I have to continue to ask more questions, and they could be wildly contradictory from the first question that I asked. And immediately ChatGPT will come back and say, that URL is a really good thinking of a next step question. And even though it's completely opposite of the question I asked before. So this isn't something this is something we know has been a problem, and we can see from how Google started to where our algorithms in all of our social media, it is having a direct problem with how we function in the world. We cannot have deep conversations with opposing views where that is not, where that's okay. So I'm not sure that this is a problem anybody wants to solve, even if they could solve it.
Last word to Dave on this.
What we're getting is, this is the first of a thing, but when you add agency to this, you've multiplied it again. You've put another amplifier on the line. When agency starts to do these things and becomes hallucinatory, it will have real world consequence. It won't just affect what text came out of the box. It'll affect whether or not the lights went out in my house. And it will have sort of implications for someone who didn't think far enough ahead as to what the options are. I've actually heard scientists refer to AI as a black box. They have a lot of difficulty explaining even to each other what's going on inside. And so they need to be able to make that more transparent, which is what I think the senator was asking for, is we need to know how these things operate so that then we can make good decisions about them. But nobody's yet been able to explain how it manages. And when we get to agency, it's even more, because now it's relying on me to provide it with guidance about what it should do next. And if it decides to add something because Dave might like to do that, and I don't approve of that, then somebody else can come back at me and said, your agent sent me a thing and I'm offended by it. And I go, I didn't send that. He says, no, your agent did that. Clippy did that for you. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the helper Microsoft has now. Anyway, it's not Clippy. He's not Clippy. But they're going to be doing
door,
things
Dave. They're coming to get you.
Yeah, they're coming to get me. Microsoft is barking at me right now. No, I think the sense that we've got just the tip of the iceberg here. We're looking at the snow coming out of the water, and we don't know when you elevate that whole thing, you're going to have a mountain of problems, because they're going to multiply and proliferate in all directions simultaneously. And trying to corral those horses after they leave the barn is going to be really difficult. And I'm not going to use any more.
And let's also remember what Ken is bringing up in the chat, which is really important, is that we also can't assume that the source data is correct, right? False information long predates LLMs. We've been living with misinformation, fabricated news for decades, and that Google is not we think I do certainly, that Google is the source of truth, but it's not. It's an index, of the
other people's
garbage
truth.
that we've, that we've put out there, and that we've linked to, and all the links that we have then clicked on. So Dave, you've now driven us directly where I wanted to go about, because it's one thing when an LLM shares an ugly story or gives a wrong answer. It's a whole other thing when an LLM or a tool based on an LLM uses that information to take action in the real world on our behalf. Yep. And that's what we have now. So just as a
my credit card, yes.
I'm sorry?
My agent will drain my credit card. That's what he'll do. He'll hear office hours talking about all this technology,
right,
and automatically order it for me. And I will say, what happened? And then they're going to go, well, you bought it. And you can't send it back.
And we're seeing, and this is not in the future. This is now. So I'm just here in ChatGPT Atlas, the new ChatGPT browser, and I've opened up the sidebar here. And if I click on the plus bar at the bottom and I click on agent mode, I can now ask it to do things, to take actions on my behalf. I don't know if it was in this somewhere, we looked at this and I made a shop, I think it was here. And I did a shopping list and it added all these things to my Instacart shopping list, right? I mean, now it can't check out yet, but that isn't far away. These tools are already here. So what do you, Dave, let me just throw it right back to you. I mean, what do you make of this new power that AI is, that we are consistently building toward, of agentic?
Can you define it, please?
So agentic AI, autonomous systems, means that systems that can not. Okay, here's a great example. Did you see the story? Did we talk about it last week about the robot in the home? I can never. There's so much that I watch. This new,
yes, you've done that one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the company that has the robot in the home, and it's doing the dishes and it's folding the laundry and other, and then halfway through the story, you find out that the robot really isn't. I mean, it's doing all of that, but there's a person in the other room wearing a set of VR goggles controlling every move. That is not what we're talking about, right? That is not agentic AI or autonomous systems. That is a puppet. I don't mean to dismiss the technology behind that puppet.
Yeah,
but
it's a puppet.
It's a puppet. What we're talking about is I can say, in a simple, on a phase one, is I can say to Chat or Anthropic or any other tool, do this for me, and then it will go off and do it. Step two is I don't have to ask it to do something. It just knows that it should do this. Step three is it's now deciding what it should do on its own. And these are not 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years away. This is this month, 6 months from now, and a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no, I get that. Yeah, it's a serious consideration. We had the issue of when the App Store wasn't clearer in people's minds. They let their kids order things for the game they were playing, and people wound up with gigantic bills from Amazon, and they had thousands of rolls of toilet paper mailed to them, and they had to teach people that it can do this and it's very powerful, but don't do too much. And the kid had no idea that money was going out the door because he's just asking for things and clicking go. And we're going to have an agent one day who's a 6-year-old, and it's going to have an idea of something, and it's going to say, oh, Dave's going to be very happy after I do this for him. And then Dave is going to be very mad. And now we're going to have to find a way to discipline our agents.
No, we're just all coming to your house for toilet paper. Thanks,
Come on
Dave.
up.
Thanks,
But
Dave.
you'll help me shovel the driveway, will you?
Well, you mentioned about the robot and that virtual reality. I mean, imagine that being a robot that can jump and or run like a dog or a horse or something. Imagine being in the goggles, but I mean, I did that with helicopters, the DJI with a headset. I was flying like a bird. It was amazing. It was the closest thing to, flying that I could ever imagine. But now what if you're also recording, that robot is being recording all of those actions and activities, and then consequently that human could be replaced by recorded action because you've trained it. And this is where a friend of mine just said, yeah, he's had his son, who's had a great experience working with Amazon here in Seattle, has recently had to go to Chicago to train his next person because they're downsizing the humans out of the situation. But currently he's training people in India because, again, the cost of living is less. The people are not as, more affordable for a large business. But even those people, as we've seen, will eventually, again, a business's job is to be in business. They're going to figure out how to make the highest profit margin for its stockholders. Now, we've gotten completely away from the agentic theme of this because I really do want to be positive about this. And I have a positive statement. Can I say it? Say it, Dave?
Go ahead.
As a creator, how can I add more value? And how can AI be my partner in creating value?
So
I think it's the flip of that.
Yes. So
Rather
I'd
than
like
all
to
of
take
this-
that exact question and
Go.
add something to it. And it's a question that Tamra put in the doc for us and that I also have. And that is, what are there tasks that should remain exclusively human? Are there tasks that we should hold on to for dear life and perhaps use these tools as you said to as partners, but they are our tasks? And I'll give you just an old example of this question in a different time, and that is, do kids need to learn script anymore? Is there any value in a child learning how to write in cursive, given that
They can't.
nobody other than signing your name needs to write in cursive anymore? Is that a skill or a task?
But you need to read.
You need to be able to read in cursive. Otherwise, you can't read primary sources for yourself.
The indigenous humans of the West Coast near Whistler talked about learning their tribal languages and it being a value of a way of communication of their heritage, of whom they are. So is cursive a thing of indigenous?
Is it culturally
humans?
relevant?
Yeah. So consequently, but Dave, as you said that, robotic rabbi does have a nice ring to it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
We
I
all should
have-
have one.
Yeah.
I
So
have
what
the
are the
answer
things?
to
Go ahead,
your
Lois.
question, David. Procreation. Making babies
Okay,
and
we'll let
raising
that
them
happen.
up.
Well, actually,
I was just thank you, Tony. I was also
Go
going
for
to
it,
say, well,
Tony.
actually, because right now every tool that you and I use is in part created by itself, right? So OpenAI uses ChatGPT and Codex specifically in creating itself.
But what does that have to do with making babies?
because it is procreating.
It's not human. It's not making a baby. That's something humans
It's
do.
making AI babies.
They're not human.
I know they're not human. They're AI, but they're still babies. Tony, go ahead.
No, I am struggling with this, and I'll admit that I'm struggling with this from a lot of points that we've talked about tonight. But one of the things you just recently mentioned was about are there things that humans ought to do? And so I lift up this problem that I saw on TikTok this week, and it was that there were over 1 million questions put to ChatGPT or OpenAI about thinking about suicide. And that's a week, 1 million a week. And when you ask the question about things that should be human only things, that is something that I think should be human only things. And the fact that it is not, and we are dealing with that, or it's being dealt with through AI. I mean, I think that somebody should raise a flag and say, hey, there's a problem with 1 million people a week asking ChatGPT how to help them with thoughts of suicide. Now, it didn't say that there are 1 million people that are committing suicide. It's just that people are asking the questions about suicide. And so the fact that that is something that exists and we are not recognizing that that is something that should be addressed, and that's something that should be, I think, human only, is problematic. Now, I don't know that that's where you wanted to go with it, but when I hear that, that raises major concerns for me.
The other side of that, Tony, is that people are going to AI because they don't have humans in their life, and which speaks to the breakdown of villages and the breakdown of society as a whole, to care for one another, to have empathy for one another, and to provide spaces where people can go to a human person versus an AI.
I absolutely agree. But we've just talked about the fact that it does hallucinations.
Right. No,
So
I agree.
what happens when it tells someone, or maybe it has told someone, you know what, based on everything that you're dealing with, you might want to go ahead and throw your chips in.
Right. And it is a reflection of what you put into it. So if that person is putting into it, here are all of my good reasons why I think this should happen, then the way that AI works right now, it would say, wow, Tamara, you're right. Given what I know about you, I think that these things. So it's not, I don't think that's an invalid point. I think that part of my concern, and I really stand on the, like, I'm excited about what we're capable of, and I love the curiosity and I love the creativity of it, but I really do question, like, are we willing, and are we accidentally or otherwise giving up what makes us human? The best parts of technology for me are our community and the way that it connects people to information. And you can look at it not just with AI, but you can go all the way back to like any kind of technology that we've had. It's always it does drastically change our lifestyle, which is what we're seeing now. But but the difference, why it feels different this time, is that it's not about changing our work. It's actually changing our perception of who we are as humans. And that's a fundamental difference of any technology that we've had so far. And that definitely worries me.
Yeah, the
Lois.
pushback I think is always that that, like Sky and Dave have already said, that, you know, it is a tool. And unfortunately, it is not a tool for some people. It's more than a tool. It's in some, I believe that in some instances, it's almost worshiped.
Right.
And so Well, I'll stop there.
Let me go
I
to
had a-
Lois
You have-
and Dave.
If you have this kind of a situation and everybody goes, oh, that shouldn't be handled by an AI. If somebody asks a question about suicide, the response should be programmed in that they get told, contact whoever, some human.
Expert help. Yeah.
Okay, so if that is something that could be done, and I think it probably could, if people think it should be done, then comes the question, okay, if somebody wants to ask questions about abortion, should that also be something that can't be talked about? Should they be directed someplace else? What about if they were talking about violence? So the question then becomes, if you restrict the AI's use for certain topics, who gets to decide what the topics are? Should it never be able to say how to build a bomb or how to build a gun or how to build a teddy bear or whatever it is that the people in control of it don't want to have discussed?
There are already some limitations that certain subjects are not able to be talked about.
Yeah, and we've had talks about that on the show before, about how it convinced someone to, act out. So, yeah. I wanted to answer the question of what humans should be required for this kind of thing. Agents shouldn't be teaching. They shouldn't be counseling. They certainly shouldn't be in childcare, scientific research, and judges. So those are just 5 I came up with off the top of my head.
Wait,
These are
scientific
human-
research?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't think AI agents should be doing
It has to be guided by people.
That's
It has
the
to be
big
guided by
promise, though.
Is it
No.
though?
No, you see, we're all talking about this thing as if it's autonomous, and it's
Right.
not.
But it's going
But it
to
is
be.
going to interfere with our lives. No, it's not. It's never going to be completely autonomous, or else somebody will have to grease the thing so it can move around. It's not autonomous. We're looking at agents that are inside systems, not agents that are walking around in the street. And if they're walking around the street, they haven't brought my groceries yet, and I'm really upset.
But they will
I
be,
think
and they will
judges-
bring your groceries.
Judges make judgments that are related to the people and their feelings and the reasonableness of arguments. And then when you get to childcare, children are completely irrational until they're 18 years old.
25.
25. They get their
That
brain
is when
back.
you get your full
So-
frontal lobe.
I'm
at
54 and
25.
I'm
There
still
you go.
completely irrational. I don't know what you're talking
so
about.
we can't let them raise
And
the
we love you
children
for it.
or care for the children, because they'll make judgments about the children, and that'll be a problem. And in counseling, it's all about the conversation. It's about the give and take. It's what somebody doesn't say that a counselor is looking for. They're avoiding this. They're not talking about that. Whenever you bring up this, they deflect. And then you know where the map is toward their problem. And in teaching, as Tamara will say, its style of teaching has to be responsive to the style of student that sits in the class. And if you make your student, behave like a robotic response to every robotic teaching moment, it's not going to produce individual critical thinking. So I'm just giving you those 5. If you give me a year, I'll come up with 100.
Sky, can I
Yeah,
just,
I'll start there.
do you mind if I just fight him for 1 second on this? Is that okay?
Go
So
tag. It's your sandbox.
because I disagree with 2 of those. I think you're making a really good point about the counseling piece, because you're absolutely right that the best therapists hear what you don't say. And right now, and I can't imagine in the future, that's very difficult for AI to do. But when it comes to
It's a bit like mind
education,
reading, yeah.
when it comes to education, the promise of personalized learning for students, that every child has a personal teacher, can only be realized with the use of artificial intelligence, and to a certain extent, agentic artificial intelligence. I just gave. Hold on a second.
But you don't go to school just to learn facts.
I just gave a state test to 2 of my 2 second graders. It's a program called Let's Go Learn. It's on the iPad, and it is responsive. Now, this isn't AI, because it's simply following. If they know
it's a
this,
test.
then take them here, and if they don't, but it's somewhat agentic in that I'm hands off. I have nothing to do with it. One of my second graders, it took them 40 minutes to finish this test. The other one finished it in about 15. Not because the one who finished it in 15 minutes is smarter. In fact, quite the opposite. The one who took 40 minutes, the test kept generating new, deeper, hard questions that really challenged that one child. I don't have as a teacher, I don't have the time or the wherewithal to do that kind of responsive education or assessment for every single child. And I also have to fundamentally disagree on AI agentically working in science. I mean, that again, the promise is that it is going to one day discover something that we could not discover on our own.
The thing is, we do not have evidence to say that individual instruction is better. In
I
fact, we have
disagree.
new studies for schools have literally done that. They have done individual programs for each person that is dictated by computer, and those students are not doing better. I understand the promise of it. We just don't have the evidence to back that up. We don't.
You and I are looking at different
How do you teach someone to think?
studies.
This is
because the studies that I've seen absolutely show that personalized learning that is responsive to the individual student, those students. Not everyone, because it's never one size fits all, but many of those students do better than the cookie cutter experience that 95%.
You both are getting the answers you want.
That's true.
The SAT and the GRE have been tests that are modified tests. If you answer the first question wrong, then you're given easier questions from then on out. So that means if someone had a bad first question, they are now being sent down a path that is giving back data that says that they are not very smart. So we don't know that your second grader just didn't understand that first set of questions and the computer has decided that they're not as smart as the other one. So I think that there's a lot of standardized tests in and of themselves, there are multiple ways to answer any of those questions that give you information, whether someone has higher level thinking or lower level thinking. I've thought about this a lot this week in terms of education, because the truth of the matter is, when I was thinking about like how I use what I get out of using technology, there's a certain power in it that when the best for me with AI is when I'm asking it questions and then I'm performing the tasks and I'm learning as I go and I'm modifying my questions and I'm asking, and I at the end have done the work. And I was thinking about it like when I was teaching reading, especially to middle schoolers, right? There's a difference between someone who knows how to read, which are lots and lots of people, and people who are readers. Like they really have to read, they have to read story, they need to be in a book. And one of the things that you notice with a non-reader, a kid who doesn't really read, they just read the words or they're not very good at it, is that they back out of that book very quickly. They're a page in and they're out. They're not quite in it. A reader, someone who reads a lot, we kind of are okay being uncomfortable for 10 or 20 pages while we're working out the details. And what I realized when I was watching students read is that those students who were struggling as readers never got to the end. They never got the satisfaction of actually having completed that task. And that's something that I'm seeing a lot when we're talking about having computers dictate, or even just having data dictate. No Child Left Behind gave us this really amazing thing that allowed us to look under the rock and say, hey, some students are not being served, and we need to serve all students. But at the same time, it also made every single student into a number, and 20 years on, we're starting to realize that may have also been problematic. So I think that when we say, like, computers or of any kind are going to be like the magic bullet, like we have to have conversations around that says there is something about a teacher being in a room with a student who knows more about that student than a computer, who can understand the root of where their problems are. We now have teachers who are as a general rule in society, are not given the ability to do the work of teaching and do that work. They are hampered by data. They're hampered by computer systems that that they have to use. And I'm not saying it's bad. I think there's some really, really great things out there that are AI based in education, but it is not a magic bullet. And we have to get back to community and putting those things in concert together, not one or the other.
Sky, go ahead.
Well, and that's where I'm going to continue with the community first, and everything else should be in service to the human. And this is where the joy of it is that we've got an entire separate conversation going over there between Victor and Talalek.
I've been
and
watching
Ken.
that. Yeah,
I love that the engagement, because we have met these people, we know these humans, whether we've breathed the same air in the same space. I have drunk a beer with Talalek before, and it was a good beer. But the joy of how can these tools help our creative interaction with one another? But again, I'm kind of, what started me off was Talalek asked, where did the question about suicide come in? And what I remembered hearing, and my little brief search that Google brought up, was Sam Altman's comment was, why am I having to deal with this conversation? Why, and I know that Ford asked that same question as they become to, turn their cars into automation. Who is going to be sued less? The crowd of people that the car has to choose to, drive into, or the person in the car that's driving it? And these are the ethical questions of, stuff's going to happen. Now, who's going to have a bigger lawyer? I think that's the open question. And I think what we're trying to do, and I think you started it, Dave, was the utopian society of, well, it shouldn't be that way, or it's not fair. It's like, there's been people without ever since people began. So how do we learn to love each other, work with each other, and help support each other? Because I think that's, again, I love that phrase, how we go far rather than alone.
And I
think that.
Can I just say, real quick, Tony, and then Dave, and then Lois, and then we'll wrap. I just want to, what I imagine when I think of agentic AI is not that they are doing all the research or doing all the teaching or doing all of the anything. I think of it as they are helping us do a better job of those, of doing our part in those things. And I just, if it's okay, I'll just give the tiniest of examples. So I have a program that a school program, and it is a skill-based program, which means everything we do is aligned to our state standards. I'm not just teaching social studies. I want to know what are the specific skills that the children need to learn, and we're working on skill mastery. The problem is as you were saying, Tamara, I think, is the data, is that there are so many state standards, and for teachers to be able to accurately track how a child is mastering any or all of those skills is just nearly impossible. So AI built a tool where the teacher can just with their phone speak into their phone and say, David worked really hard on adding 2-digit numbers today. And what it will do is it will find the student, because it knows who David is. It will find the right standard. It'll find the right learning goal. It'll fill all that out for the teacher. And then all the teacher has to do is click either the little sprout, the twig, or the tree to show how far along the child is in that particular goal. So and eventually, what I'd love to be able to do is for the teacher to take a picture or upload a short video of that child working, and then the AI can just do it all, right? That's agentic AI in education, if you ask me. Not doing the teaching, helping the teacher do the teaching. Tony, Dave, Lois.
Well, I think that you just gave a perfect example of how AI is a tool. And I think we have to, but we still have to go back to this issue that everyone has raised tonight, and that is sense of community. And it is so problematic in that we are not able to, we in a sense we are wanting to give AI, we want to force AI really to be the community, or be part of the community, and it's not something that we are willing to wrestle with. And the other thing that I would say is that I think for you, Rabbi, in the context in which you use it as far as education is concerned, let's not forget that not only are you able to use it in the context of education, you are also able to use it in the sense of community, because you are able to do it in the school that you are running. And the problem is that, so even now, you think about the fact that there are some people, regardless to where you land in this whole situation, there are people right now who are dealing with hunger and will deal with hunger for some period of time. Our focus is not on that. Our focus is on bypassing a responsibility of community. There is not, there has to be, we have to go back to the idea of village community, and the school and the house of worship have always been the centerpiece for community. And if we are not able to do that, we are going down a road that we may not ever be able to recover from. And I know it sounds a little bleak, and we're supposed to be having a conversation about our agentic AI. But this situation of community is problematic for us. It's problematic in the world, but it's problematic for us because we got so many things coming at us that we are so fractured. And if we are not looking at the AI as a tool, but as a simply a resource or something to use that allows us not to be even less of a community. If we shift it to, we're going to operate just in this AI thing and let AI do everything for us, we are even more separated. And so that's,
yeah. Let me, Dave and Lois, a minute each. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. I came at this from a different angle, and I love what everybody's been saying, but I wondered if agents are going to make our lives slow down. Can we have time to think if the agent's taking care of all the grocery shopping and all that other stuff? If that's the thing, then I'm welcoming agents to help us sit and work out things in community. And if it's making us work faster or work less, that is unpaid, then it's a societal problem. And I think, early we were talking about who's responsible for a car crash. Is it the manufacturer of the car or the driver? And it's actually both, depending on the circumstances. If someone is using AI to generate massive amounts of defamation building arguments, and they overwhelm the system because they have that, as you were talking about, David, the power behind it to make it do those things, then yeah, we've got a real social issue on our hands. And the other part that I had is that in all of these major technological changes, think about the introduction of the microwave and how there was always this rumor about a cat in a microwave. It was never true. But urban myths have guided us with almost ghost stories about technology and how we shouldn't trust it right away. And generations come into that milieu knowing that there's a myth that I should know about so that I don't make those mistakes. And no one ever actually did put a cat in a microwave, but it was the idea that someone is foolish enough to do that. And I hear this all the time about misinformation on the internet, and these people are foolish enough to believe it. Well, we've got to have an enduring myth about who we are and have that overpower anything that is agentic and allow it to interpret that so that it can serve me in the context that I intend. But we've been talking a lot about how it will set the pace, or it'll make up the context or create the culture. And I don't believe that's ever going to happen. But also, we should be, making sure the guys who are inventing this stuff have not forgotten that.
Lois.
So he stole my thunder. But basically, when I think about this agentic AI, my question comes down to, okay, I'm using a tool. It was created by someone. It's controlled by, I don't know what it's controlled by, but some agency out there, some company out there owns the thing. But I've got it now, and I'm having it do stuff, and it's going off and doing things, and it might be doing things that I want or that I don't know that I want or whatever. So here's a
Baking
question.
a cake for me.
When
Yes.
when the activity has been completed and someone comes and says, "Oh, that's not good," like that lady who sued, who's responsible for that action? Is it me because it's my agent? Is it the agent? Well, it's not an entity, so it can't be responsible for anything. Is it the company that owns the agent or that I'm renting it from, or however you want to say that? Who's responsible for that final activity?
That is the mystery.
Yeah.
That is the mystery.
And right. And as afraid as I and others are of governments getting involved in this business, someone's got to figure out some answers to those challenging questions. We've gone a little long tonight, but that only means that this has been a fantastic conversation. And by the way, about halfway through, I was thinking, and I wanted to make sure that I said this, that I want people who are watching, I want you to know that we don't just, the people on this panel don't just show up and in Hebrew, we say talk tuchus, talk out of their behind. I just want you all to know that everybody here spends time before each show preparing and reading and really pulling their thoughts together. And I'm so incredibly grateful to all of you for helping us have a really thoughtful conversation. I'm also unbelievably thank you to Tlalak and Ken and Richie and Gary and Vic. And Tony is in there. And who else did I miss?
And about 12 other people.
Ray Franklin, and so many people in here having a really fantastic conversation on and Gary, I think I mentioned, I hope I did, having a really fantastic conversation on YouTube, and I love that. That just makes it all worthwhile. So,
we got a good show from Victor. He said, "Good show."
Yes. But Vic watches everything and says everything's a good show, so I don't know if I believe
No, don't diminish the. Oh,
He's just too
Love
nice.
Vic.
He's too nice. That's the problem. Vic's the
Vic
best.
is
the
an
air out of
agent.
that
I
balloon.
declare him.
Vic's the
You
best.
know,
Wow,
you can
you are
do a
not
show.
you are not my AI agent. Let me tell you.
You can do a show all the time, and someone can like it all the time, and it just means it's a good show.
There you go. Thank you, all of you, for being here. Thank you for watching. If you want to be part of our panel, if you have thoughts, if you have questions, please join us over on Discord or hit me up anywhere. You can find me, go to therundown.show. You can access me and us and all of this there. We'd love to hear your voice and have you be a part of it. Until next week, have a wonderful